Hello again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather on this 14th day of January 2022. I'm Dave Percy, meteorologist with the National Weather Service. I'll be hosting today's show. Up first, hazardous weather graphic. There's a high wind warning out until, for overnight period tonight for the southern panhandle for winds gusting to 60 miles an hour. As low pressure tracks northward, already seeing winds gusting 60-65 miles per hour around places like Heidelberg, and 40-45 miles an hour as far north as Petersburg and the Central Coast. Otherwise, for the northern interior, there's a winter weather advisory out until noon Saturday for the western north slope, or I'm sorry, the eastern north slope, for 30 mile an hour east-northeast winds, gusting to 30 miles an hour, creating blowing snow, reducing visibility to a half mile or less, along with wind chills of 55 degrees below zero. And then for the Koyukuk Valley down toward Tanana, or Yukon Valley area, Yukon Flats, winter weather advisory out until 9 p.m. this evening. And that's for 35 mile an hour northeast wind gusts, and that will reduce visibilities to less than a half mile at times and blowing snow mostly over the higher terrain. And from there, taking a look at expected snowfall to return to south central Alaska. Nothing heavy at all, just picking up a couple inches around the Anchorage Palmer area. Seward may pick up a couple inches, and then Valdez maybe 4 to 6 inches over that in that area, on down toward Cordova, but north of the Coast Range there, pretty light, nothing in the Copper River Basin, except over toward McCarthy, Wrangell Mountain areas may pick up less than half an inch, but you can see up toward Cantwell, none expected there. Chulitna, just a few flurries, then maybe an inch falling at Talkeetna. Kenai Peninsula looking anywhere from 1 to 2, maybe 3 inches at the most across the Kenai Peninsula, and then the upslope areas of the western Susitna Valley, western Cook Inlet may pick up 3 to 4 inches there, squinting on over toward the mountains. And up to the north there, snowfall, again, have a lot of snow coming in, not so much depth-wise, or, depth-wise, but coverage-wise. 1 to 2 inches, or 1 to 3 inches expected from the Seward Peninsula eastward over toward Eagle, and much of the interior south of the Brooks Range. Also looking at 1 to 3 inches of snow expected through Sunday afternoon. So light snow, but quite a widespread area of snow, but stays dry along the northwest coast, north slope, on out to the Arctic coast, where virtually none is expected. Satellite imagery showing a pretty wound up low tracking northward, bringing the strong winds and moderately heavy amounts of rain to the areas of the southeast coast during the day today. Petersburg picked up about an inch of rain in the last 12 hours. Otherwise, 2/3 of an inch fallen at Cake and, Ketchikan, while 1/4 of an inch fell at Juneau there with the main occluded front that's rolling through the northern panhandle today. And lighter amounts back to the west. You can see some variable clouds over the southeast interior with any precipitation very light associated with that. And then snow showers are pretty scattered out by the time they reach the Aleutians there from the Bering Sea, as that northerly flow really is weakened now, and a very weak frontal boundary in across the western Aleutians, bringing actually just dissolves here throughout the afternoon as another one starts to move in, and that'll bring more precipitation and increase the winds later tonight. Otherwise, dry and cold up along the Arctic coast and North Slope. Inland areas of the North Slope seeing temperatures 30 to 40 degrees below zero. A little milder out toward the Arctic coast, 15 to 20 below there. General area of low pressure over the eastern Bering Sea, and that keeping some snow showers going for the Pribilofs on up towards St. Lawrence Island, but very light and pretty scattered, although a lot of cloudiness out there. On the chart today, you can see the low pulling up toward the Panhandle and the frontal boundary. It brought the gusty winds and rainfall into the area, with a mixture of light precipitation along the North Gulf Coast and those gusty winds through the passes of the Brooks Range. Not quite as strong as what they were yesterday, but areas like Indian Mountain, West Central Interior had gusts of 40 miles an hour today, as well as up at Point Hope, Cape Lisburne area in the western Arctic coast, 30 to 40 mile an hour gusts there. Much lighter down along the west coast areas and over the southern interior. Although Portage earlier today had winds out of the east gusting to 50 miles an hour as that low weakened as it pulled northward there to just west of Kuskokwim Bay this afternoon. Then you can see out to the west there, the next front south of the western Aleutians tonight pushes northward with increasing precipitation and increasing winds along with it. Mixed rain and snow, Adak and Atka, westward to Shimei and Attu. Otherwise, low pressure over the southwest interior there as that low moves inland. Widespread area of light snow and snow showers from the Pribilof Islands into Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, northward through Norton Sound and northeast across the upper Yukon Valley, but dry over the upper Tanana Valley 40-mile country into the Copper River Basin. Chance of showers or light rain or snow along the North Gulf Coast. And then windy and wet, especially early on tonight. And then that low tracks northward, gradually weakening. You see coming above 1,000 millibars. But it'll stay windy and wet over the southern Panhandle with a lot less wind to the north and lighter precipitation amounts. And moving on to Saturday. Weak trough keeps showers in over the Panhandle, holds the North Gulf Coast. Kind of an unsettled pattern, but nothing heavy as far as wind or rain goes. And then mixed showers of rain or snow again, southern Kuskokwim Valley and along a trough up the western interior to the southern slopes of the DeLong Mountains and the western Brooks Range. Flurries and fog from the Bering Strait, northern Seward Peninsula down, catching St. Lawrence Island. And then gale and storm force winds. Storm force winds for the western Aleutians out of the northeast tomorrow at 50 knots. Otherwise, good gales all the way east to Atka with increasing winds late in the day for the Fox Islands. Otherwise, light winds tomorrow. Light and variable winds in store for the Pribilofs. Maybe some clearings. Should be a dry day, as well as the Alaska Peninsula. And Kodiak, just a risk of a shower with mostly cloudy skies and light winds. Outlook for second day of the weekend, Sunday. Next low, much weaker than the one pulling up today, moves to just west of the Dixon entrance area on Sunday. So look for rain over the southern Panhandle, otherwise rain or snow showers along that trough extending to 1,009 millibar low there near Burwash, just north of, well, actually near Skagway. And then areas of snow showers over the eastern interior, light snow or snow showers over the northwest part of the state and the central interior along much of the Yukon River Valley area, but improving southern Alaska. Look for clearing skies from Kodiak Island pushing northward after some early morning shower chances for the northern Cook Inlet and the Susitna Valley. They'll give way to partly cloudy skies in the afternoon with light winds. And then that system weakens as it pushes eastward, the low center staying well south of the western Aleutians. So winds will increase but won't be all that strong, but look for rain to move into the, will extend eastward to the western Alaska Peninsula. Snow changes to rain over the Pribilof Islands with gusty east-southeast winds there. And then that extends back towards Shimei and Attu. Looking at lows tonight, 22, 35, or 40 below for the North Slope Arctic coast. 5 to 10 below for the central interior to 5 to 10 above out toward the Seward Peninsula, Yukon Kuskokwim Delta area, upper teens to lower 20s. Bristol Bay near 30 for Kodiak, 20s. South of the Alaska Range, low below zero around Glen Allen, Gulkana. Otherwise upper 20s, northern Panhandle around Skagway to near 40 down to the south. Mid to upper 20s for the Alaska Peninsula, Aleutians, and near 20 for the Pribilofs. Highs for tomorrow, around mid-20s, St. Paul, St. George Island, near 40 in the central Aleutians, 35 to 40 for the western Alaska Peninsula, Fox Island, Shimei and Attu, upper 30s, Kodiak Island, mid to upper 20s for Bristol Bay, mid-teens along the Kuskokwim, Yukon Delta areas, and 5 to 15 for your highs for the central interior, and near zero as you get up toward the Brooks Range, staying below zero for the Arctic coast and North Slope, and 30s to lower 40s for the Panhandle. Southeast coast lows Sunday morning, upper 20s north, otherwise mid to upper 30s along the coast and to the south, mid-20s Kodiak Island, and 15 to 25 south central Alaska. And generally back below 0, but not too far, 0 to 10 below for the central interior, and again 20 to 35 below for the north slope, and milder out toward the Arctic coast. Lower 20s for the Pribilofs, mid-30s for the Aleutians, 20s for the Alaska Peninsula, and down around 10 for king salmon, followed by highs 15 to 20 for Bristol Bay, mid-30s Kodiak Island, and 5 to 15 over the interior, below 0 north of the Brooks Range.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
First line weather, AKwx Saturday morning. Marginal VFR north slope down across the Brooks Range. A lot of IFR in the interior. Yukon Flats, southwestward, covering a good portion, well, all of the southwest coast, right up into the central interior, Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula, part of the Susitna Valley, and the Denali Park area. And then IFR over most of the Panhandle. Area of marginal VFR, pretty widespread, Alaska Peninsula, Eastern Aleutians, Bering Sea with some IFR with the next system sliding up to the west central Aleutians. And for the afternoon, we've got IFR again pretty well entrenched over the western and southwest interior, Norton Sound, on down to Bristol Bay, right up over the Alaska Range, western Alaska Range, and then down across the Talkeetnas, North Gulf Coast, and all the Panhandle socked in with IFR, and also IFR Brooks Range, Upper Yukon Valley. Some VFR for Nunivak Island and the northern Bering Sea, marginal VFR Kodiak Island, Eastern Aleutians. And for the Sunday morning time frame, IFR for the Brooks Range, and a lot of IFR over the central and southern interior, the exception being Cook Inlet and the Kenai Peninsula, Prince William Sound, but IFR for the Copper River Basin, Matanuska Valley, eastward for the eastern North Gulf Coast and the Panhandle, and an area of IFR, kind of a narrow band there, Adak to Atka, merging into a larger area over the northwestern Bering that stretches eastward to St. Paul Island. And for Sunday afternoon, a lot of IFR out over the central Bering Sea, southward to the Adak-Atka area in the Fox Islands, western Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, areas of marginal VFR with IFR scattered around the western Aleutians, marginal VFR, Alaska Peninsula. But you can see VFR breaking out, improving as the moisture lifts northward. Looking at a pretty good afternoon, southern Alaska, Cook Inlet, Matanuska Valley, Bristol Bay, Kuskokwim Delta, Kodiak Island, Prince William Sound, North Gulf Coast, looking really good with the IFR up over the interior. And kind of split the panhandle between marginal VFR and IFR. And for passes Anatuvik, looks pretty marginal tomorrow, as does Adigan. Lake Clark and Merrill, IFR with, excuse me, IFR for rainy, marginal VFR western entrance, and for windy, IFR with marginal VFR out the north entrance. Isabel, IFR, marginal VFR north side. Mentasta, marginal VFR. Tanita, IFR, marginal VFR on the western entrance. Portage, socked in IFR there, as well as Chilkoot and White. Freezing levels at the surface right around Cook Inlet down across Bristol Bay, but north of the Aleutians, 2,000 feet up into the Gulf of Alaska, 2,000 to 4,000 feet though south of the western Aleutians. Icing, areas of light to very isolated moderate rime icing across the southeast coast. That'd be the heaviest icing area there. That'll extend up to the North Gulf Coast, and then less of a threat there across Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula, extending northwest across the lower Yukon River Valley to Noatak Valley and Norton Sound, and then some heavier icing with the next system pushing up into the central Aleutians. And as far as the jet stream goes, high pressure just south of the Fox Islands there, so we've got 85 to 115 knot jet riding up and over the top of that, turning west-northwest, diving southeastward there, south of Kodiak Island, and then southerlies, or southwesterlies, 120 knots, turn westerly, cutting across Dixon Entrance in the southern Panhandle, and then lighter up over the interior. And from there, taking a look at 9,000 feet, west-southwest, about 40 knots across the Queen Charlotte's, western Canada there, much lighter over the Panhandle. Low pressure, southern Alaska Range, north of Kodiak, so we got 45 knot westerlies there, cutting across the Trinity Islands and Sitkinak Island, and 30 to 40 knots across the Alaska Peninsula. Light over the northern interior and the northern Bering Sea, and then 60 knot east-southeasterly winds coming into the western Aleutians with the next system off to the southwest. Even stronger winds with that system at 3,000 feet, 60 to 70 knot winds in advance of the front. As it pushes in toward Adak and Atka, winds increasing. Eastern Aleutians about 35 knots, west 35 Bristol Bay, south 35 Prince William Sound, westerlies 35 to 40 knots there in the central interior, and then east 40 for the Panhandle, east 40 for the North Slope, and no turbulence for southern Alaska, but moderate chop, pretty considerable for the Aleutians.
It used to be that you could only warn one person about a tornado after it had already blown down someone else's barn.
Now, on average, we're able to issue a tornado warning 15 minutes before the tornado's even there, and that wouldn't be happening without Doppler radar.
This NexRad system has reduced fatalities on the order of 45% due to tornadoes since its advent.
We have a lot more information now about storms and being able to understand how they develop, how they produce severe weather, and how that information might be used to improve warnings for our National Weather Service partners.
The lab is unique in that we serve the nation by supporting the National Weather Service in its mission to protect lives and safe property by improving the accuracy and the lead time of severe weather warnings.
We have a legacy of radar research and converting existing technology from military to weather purposes.
A recycled Doppler radar led to the development of NexRad, installed nationwide in the early 90s. It allowed forecasters to see storms like never before.
Not only did we help bring that technology to the National Weather Service and to help protect lives and property, but we have continued to upgrade that technology, keep it relevant, and keep it state-of-the-art.
Recently, a major upgrade was added. Dual polarization technology takes the radar from 2D to 3D. Forecasters now know more about what type of precipitation is falling, which is very helpful during winter storms, as well as how much rain is accumulating, resulting in better flash flood warnings. The radar can also detect and track tornadoes based on debris. Looking to the future, the National Severe Storms Lab is testing the capabilities of phased array radar. Originally used by the U.S. Navy, the antenna scans the skies electronically rather than mechanically, allowing the radar to focus on a storm.
With current technology, we get a full picture or image of what is going on within a storm every 4 to 5 minutes. So it's more like a snapshot. Whereas with phased array radar, we get that picture of what's going on in the storm every minute, so it becomes more like watching a movie. So we can do adaptive, rapid scanning on the storms that matter most, being able to provide the information that's most relevant when and where it's happening.
Another advantage of phased array radar is its multifunction capability, providing weather and air traffic information simultaneously.
Number one, it is a system that promises to replace and expand upon the existing weather surveillance radars. Secondly, to replace aging air traffic surveillance radars. And number three, it offers the potential application to meet Department of Homeland Security and defense requirements for identifying and tracking non-cooperative aircraft. With the replacement of all these various radars with a single system, the American taxpayer could realize substantial savings in cost.
You have a lot fewer radars to maintain, and the electronic capability of this also reduces maintenance costs because you do not have moving parts.
Not too long ago, the ability to predict severe weather was thought to be impossible. During the past several decades, research conducted at the National Severe Storms Lab has developed life-saving tools like Doppler radar. We've progressed from no warning of threatening weather to about a 15-minute lead time, and current research promises to extend that much further.
Our knowledge of severe storms and how they behave, and our use and ability to use the Doppler radar technology is in a lot of cases a direct result of that close working relationship, that research to operations component that we get between the National Severe Storms Laboratory and a forecast office.
That history and understanding of how these data can be used by our users and doing the research to help advance the use of radar technology, really it's what we live for, it's in our lifeblood, it's in our history.
It's now easier than ever to be a part of weather research. We just launched the mPing app for both iPhone and Android users, and it's totally free. PING, which stands for Precipitation Identification Near the Ground, is a research project by the NOAA National Severe Storms Lab and the University of Oklahoma. With the mobile app, you can send us your weather observations on the go. Are snowflakes falling on your head? Is hail hitting your car? Just select what type of precipitation is falling and press submit. It's that easy. It takes about 5 seconds and it's anonymous. Reports can then be viewed online. Our scientists will compare your report with what the radar has detected. This helps us develop new radar technologies and techniques. Download the app today, share your reports, and let's work together to make our nation weather ready. Learn more here and follow us.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at the coastal waters for the Panhandle, strongest winds will be on the south coast and looking at southwest winds 20 to 30 knots, seas 18 to 22 feet. Much lighter winds as you head north on the coastline, down to south to southwest 10 to 15 knots. Central and northern inner channels, Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, Stevens Passage, southeast breeze at 15 knots with 3-foot seas. And for Clarence Strait, winds will be south 20 knots with 14-foot seas. And moving on to Sunday, northwest winds 20 knots the entire stretch of the outer coast, seas around 10 feet, give or take. Small craft advisories for Clarence Strait, southeast winds 25 knots, 5-foot seas. Stevens Passage, southeast 15 with 3-foot seas. Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, all the northern inner channels, mostly northwest at 15 knots and seas at 3 feet. For Prince William Sound, east winds 20 knots for the day Saturday. Small craft advisories for the North Gulf Coast for southwest winds at 25 knots with 11-foot seas. And for the Barren Islands, winds will be west at 20 knots with 10-foot seas. And for the Kamishak Bay area, west winds 25 knots, and also small craft advisories for southern Cook Inlet, southwest winds 25 knots with 8-foot seas. Northern Cook Inlet, south at 20. Then on Sunday, Cook Inlet, north winds 10 knots, 2-foot seas, north of 15 for Prince William Sound with 3-foot seas. Northwest 20 knots around Middleton Island, and for the western North Gulf Coast, winds will be 25 knots from the west. Same thing for the Barren Islands. Kamishak Bay, northwest at 25 with 8-foot seas. And for Kodiak Island for Saturday, west-southwest winds 20 knots, 5 to 9-foot seas. From Sitkinak to Cape Sarachev, winds will be west at 20 knots, seas just under 10 feet. Bering Seaside, the Alaska Peninsula, winds will be southwest at 20 knots. Bristol Bay looking at a 15-knot southwest breeze. Those will turn east at 20 knots for Bristol Bay on Sunday. And for the Alaska Peninsula, southeast winds 25 knots. And from Castle Cape to Sitkinak, winds will be south of 20 knots. And Kodiak Island looking at west winds 15 to 20 knots with seas as high as 8 feet. And for Unalaska Island, west or south to southwest winds 20 to 25 knots. Unimak Island, gale warnings, southeast coming up to 35 knots. And for AKwx, east-southeast 40 knots. Gale warnings also for Amchitka Island for east winds at 45 knots. And then there's storm warnings out. Kiska to Shemya for Saturday, northeast winds 50 knots and 20-foot seas. And for Sunday, from Shemya to Kiska, winds will be northeast at 45 knots, but small craft advisories for Amchitka Island east at 25 knots, AKwx southeast at 25 knots, and then 30-knot winds in the forecast for the Fox Islands from the southeast, and seas running quite a range there, 9 to 21 feet. Pribilof Islands tomorrow, light variable winds at 10 knots with seas down to 4 feet. Light winds there for the Kuskokwim Delta coast, southwest at 10. 20-knot winds, northern Bering Sea and the Yukon Delta coast out of the north. And 30-knot brisk wind advisory level winds for St. Lawrence Island, northerlies at 30 knots. And those will continue for St. Lawrence Island into Sunday, north at 30 knots. Good gales for the St. Matthew Island area, northeast winds increasing to 40 knots, seas building to 14 feet. Pribilof small craft advisories, east winds 25 knots. And for the southwest coast, brisk wind advisories, east, northeast at 25 knots. On northward there to the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, central and eastern coast, east, northeast 10 to 15 knots. Brisk wind advisories for the western stretch of the coastline, northeast at 25 knots. Gale warnings in the area from Cape Beaufort to Cape Thompson at 35 knots, and from Cape Thompson to Wales, winds will be north at 30 knots. And for Sunday, gale warnings from Wales to Cape Thompson, north winds 35 knots, and 25-knot winds from the north, Cape Beaufort to Cape Thompson, 20-knot winds western Arctic coast. And for the central and east side, winds will be northeast at 10 to 15, but toward Barter Island, the demarcation point, look for winds to be east at 20 knots. For tonight, low weakens as it tracks northward off the Panhandle. It will be windy with wet conditions, rain heavy at times. High wind warning for gusts to 60 miles an hour for the southern Panhandle till 9 p.m. Then the low weakens. Widespread area of snow and snow showers, Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula, areas to sit in the valley westward to the west coast, Norton Sound, northeastward to the southern slopes of the Brooks Range. Next system pushes eastward in the Aleutians tomorrow and Sunday.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.